Let's take a deeper dive into how the Voice debate has played out in the state of Victoria. I'm actually joining you live from Melbourne today, and joining me in the studio here is Nicholas Rees, the Deputy Lord Mayor of Melbourne, and Michael Croker, the former Victoria Liberal Party President. Michael, Nick, good to see you both. Nick, I wanted to start with you because I understand there's been a bit of a hiccup when it comes to one booth in the city of Melbourne. We have some video that we can show our viewers of very long waiting lines. Why did that happen? Why were the queues so long?
Thanks, Ash. Look, it's more than one booth, unfortunately. The Australian Electoral Commission did not establish a polling booth in the central business district of Melbourne. Melbourne CBD is the biggest CBD in the country, also has tens of thousands of people who reside there, and because there hasn't been a polling booth set up at Town Hall or one of the other options that were available, it has meant that those people have had to move to other booths close to the city, such as Docklands or such as Southbank. I was down at Docklands this morning. The queue there was over 2 hours. Actually, I've just come from Southbank where the queue's at least an hour and a half. We can all have a debate about the Voice and whether you're yes or no, but one thing surely we all agree on is that the administration of the voting process in a democracy should be carried out well, and it's been a real fail here in Melbourne, particularly considering we have compulsory voting in this country. So we want to make it as easy as possible to cast their vote, but yeah, we've got long queues in Melbourne because they haven't had that booth in the CBD.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like a real oversight there, one that the AEC will no doubt be asked questions about in the coming days and weeks. Michael, I want to get your view of where things are at in the state of Victoria. What is your expectation of what sort of result we'll see tonight?
Well, I think the vote will be defeated here in Victoria, as it will be in pretty well everywhere. Look, the Yes campaign have worked incredibly hard over the last week. There may be a tick up from their vote. They've plundered a lot of money into the campaign before the blackout, etc. Albo's been out there every day, and you know when the Prime Minister's telling you something's the right thing to do, that influences a lot of people, obviously. So they've probably done better in the last week than the No campaign, but still, this referendum will be defeated. As it should be. I mean, to permanently divide this country by race is not the way to go.
Well, obviously, Nick Rees has a different view on that. He's in the studio wearing the Yes T-shirt today. Nick, how close do you think it's going to end up?
Look, the polls are not looking good, but I remain optimistic. I was just at my daughter's netball game and I had my Yes T-shirt on, and I had lots of people coming up and saying, you know, good on you and wishing me well. I've also spent a lot of hours handing out how-to votes, and look, the feeling's been pretty good out there. You know, I've read some reports about, you know, tensions being high on polling booths. I haven't seen that, which is good. I think that's a great thing about our democracy. Had a few people, you know, say gruffly refusing to take yes material. Had one fella say to me, oh, you know, they're going to take our backyards. But overall, I think the mood of what I've seen has been pretty good. And look, I'm still remaining optimistic that we will get a positive outcome tonight and that Australian people will vote for yes. And, you know, yes gives us hope. Yes gives us a chance to really take a step forward in terms of advancing the interests of Indigenous people in our country.
Yeah, Michael, when we look at the behaviour on the voting booths today, there had been some concerns that there might be some tension flare up on the booths. Our reporters who have been right across the country certainly haven't been picking up on that. They're reporting that most people are heading in, they know what they want to do. They're really not engaging much from many of the reports in terms of with either the Yes or the No campaign. A lot of people obviously have made up their mind by this point after so much debate in recent weeks. Not many democracy sausages as well, by the sound of it. Anecdotally, I know that friends I know, you know, on their local schools, Parents' Council have been saying that they actually didn't want to get involved. They were also worried that it could end up being a divisive situation and that they weren't going to get the PNC of schools involved in it. So that's an interesting side point. But when it comes to the Prime Minister tonight, Michael, what sort of message do you expect to see from him if it is what the polls are saying and it's a no vote? How much political capital do you think the Prime Minister has spent on this?
Well, I think he spent a lot because he's been so fervent about it for so long, and he's ignored cost of living issues, and that's you know very clear from his own polling and from the polling of the Yes campaign, where people basically think that there are other issues as well that are important for the Prime Minister's time. So his message tonight has to be very clear, which is that he accepts the view of the public, presuming it's a no vote, that is. He's got to recommit the government back onto cost of living issues and not in any way, shape or form try and implement the voice through the parliament, given that the referendum's been rejected. This is a most unusual situation. I mean, John Howard didn't really campaign in '99 in relation to the Republic, even though he was the Prime Minister. Anthony Albanese has gone full bore on this, and if it's overwhelmingly rejected, he's got to lose quite a bit of skin, and that's something he's got to recover from.
Nick, where does the Prime Minister go from here if it is an overwhelming no vote?
Well, look, I've got to begin by just unwinding some of the bunkum we heard from Michael Kroger there. Anthony Albanese made a very clear commitment at the last election that he would put forward a referendum vote on a voice to Parliament, agreeing to the request made of both sides of politics by Aboriginal leaders in this country, and he repeated that on election night. So you would expect a Prime Minister to keep his word and do what he said he would do. I think if there's somebody who should be worried about tonight's result, it's actually Peter Dutton, because if that no vote comes in strongly, if the yes vote comes in strongly in some of those Teal seats, then that is a very bad portent for Dutton and the Liberals at the next election. They cannot regain government unless they make inroads into those 6 seats that they lost, former Liberal seats that they lost to the Teals. And if there is a strong yes vote in those seats, then I think the anger towards Dutton and his role in the no vote will continue for a long time to come. As for the Prime Minister and what he says tonight, look, as I said to you, Ash, I'm still optimistic. I think that there is a large undecided vote out there. I think polling around referendums is more challenging than with a normal election. I'll also point out that having been out in a number of polling booths today, I've hardly seen a no volunteer at all. I've hardly seen a bit of no bunting or material on the polling booths. The volunteers are all out there encouraging people to vote yes. So we may still see a yes vote tonight. The polls might be proven wrong. There might still be a surprise there. So I'm hoping so.
Michael Kroger, stranger to political campaigns. What are your reflections of the yes and no campaigns? What worked and what didn't? Interesting you raised the Republic referendum question as well. I guess that's another conversation to be had over the coming weeks and months as to how the government would approach the next one as slated until, well, they've said that it wouldn't happen anyway until the second term. But I know that those within the Republican movement are certainly watching this all play out very, very closely. So in terms of the campaigns, Michael, if we do see the no vote that the polls are suggesting, what went wrong, do you think, for the yes campaign?
So if it goes down tonight, it's gone down for these reasons. And remember, it almost had a 70% approval months and months ago when this whole debate started. First of all, the government haven't been able to convince people as to why dividing the country by race is an acceptable idea. Secondly, they haven't been able to explain to people why all of the advisory bodies that the governments have had for the last 30 years have all failed, but this will succeed. No information on why this will succeed when everything else has failed, particularly when the same people who are promoting the Yes campaign have been the same people who have been advising the government of all these years, and all of a sudden everything's going to change for the voice. So no explanation as to why that's the case. Thirdly, of course, absolutely no detail. We don't know who's going to run the voice, how it's going to be appointed or elected, what it's going to cost, where it's going to be situated, down to details like how do late-night Senate amendments get dealt with. I mean, you're talking about changing the Constitution here, not just, local government bylaw. You're talking about a permanent change to the Constitution forever. The government should have run 2-page advertisements week after week with full detail of how the voice would actually work. So late at night, for example, they're debating budget bills, et cetera, et cetera. There are amendments coming forward. How does the voice deal with those? Do they ring the 24 people? Do they have a subcommittee? How does it all work? Legislation's going through the parliament all day, all night. So how does any of this work? There's been no attempt whatsoever to explain any of these details, and it's been a bit of an insult to sort of the working middle class to say, oh, look, leave it to us. The parliament will decide afterwards. You people are too dumb to understand the details. Leave it to us. When leaving it to us basically means leave it to the Greens, because them having basically control of the Senate, it means the ultimate decision maker in relation to what happens with the Voice is going to be the Greens. And so without any of that information, of course, people are voting no. And I suppose the final reason is to abuse people, the abuse, calling people racists and D-heads and other things, punching down on people, the abuse that Jacinta Price has received, Warren Mundine, etc. You can't go out on one hand and say this is all about love and respect, and we put our hand out to invite, blah blah blah, and on the same page say to people, if you don't know, you're a racist. It's been terrible abuse, which has turned a lot of people off. So that's a summary of why I think it's gone wrong. It could have been completely different, but Albanese took the extreme approach of going for a constitutional amendment with the Voice's right to approach the executive government, which was another extreme. And in the end, people, I think, are realising this is not a modest change at all, just an advisory body. This is the most dramatic change the Australian Constitution will ever see, and I think that's why it'll be defeated tonight.
Okay, Michael Greger, thank you for your contributions. Nick Rees-Mogg sitting beside me here, shaking his head. I know he wants to take you up on a few of those points, but we have run out of time. I know both of you are going to have further contributions to make during our coverage of the referendum today and throughout the evening, and no doubt over the coming weeks as well, as we look back and analyse the result, which, look, a few hours left to go of voting. So we're not quite there yet, but really appreciate both of you joining us with your insights. Thank you for coming in, and we'll see both of you again on our screens very shortly.